Welcome back to Bar Girl Baddies. Today's story comes from a place a lot of you might recognise, not the neon-lit bars of Bangkok or the beach parties of Phuket, but the quiet, dusty villages of rural Thailand where the rice fields stretch forever and life moves at a different pace. It's about a man named Derek, 34 years old, from Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada. He was a pipeline worker who spent 15 years in the oil sands, banking serious money but living a life that felt emptier with each passing winter. He thought he'd found something real when he met a Thai woman named Nong, thought he'd found love, purpose, a fresh start in a country where his savings could buy him the simple life he'd been dreaming about. He even built a house in her village, a beautiful 2-bedroom place with tile floors and a western bathroom, somewhere he could finally call home. But then one day, Derek came back from a visa run to find Nong's entire extended family living in that house, sleeping in his bed, eating his food, rearranging his furniture like he was the guest. And when he tried to talk to Nong about it, she looked him dead in the eye and said it was her house. Her name was on the title. If he didn't like it, he could leave. This is the story of how Derek went from thinking he'd escaped the rat race to realizing he built his dream on someone else's land, in more ways than one. It's about generosity mistaken for love, cultural differences mistaken for connection, and the hard lesson that sometimes the person you're trying to save is actually the one setting the trap. Before we jump in, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever been in a situation where you gave everything to someone only to realize they were playing a completely different game, hit that like button and subscribe. You're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, Derek's story will help you see the signs before it's too late. Alright, let's hear it from Derek himself. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was some innocent victim. I made my choices. I saw what I wanted to see and ignored the rest. But if my story can save even one guy from making the same mistakes, then maybe losing 50 grand and 2 years of my life will mean something. My name's Derek. I'm 34, originally from a small town outside Edmonton, but I spent the last 15 years working in Fort McMurray. If you don't know Fort Mac, it's oil country tar sands, pipeline work, shift rotations that'll grind you down to nothing if you let them. The money's incredible, don't get me wrong. I was pulling in over 100,000 a year, sometimes closer to 120 with overtime, but the work is brutal. 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Living in camps with a bunch of guys who drink too much and complain too much, freezing your ass off in -40 winters, watching the same grey sky day after day. I got married when I was 26 to a girl I'd known since high school, Sarah. Sweet girl, worked as a dental hygienist. We bought a house in a subdivision south of Edmonton, got a dog, did the whole thing. But the marriage fell apart 3 years ago. No dramatic blow-up, no cheating, nothing like that. We just stopped being people to each other. I'd come home after 2 weeks in camp, and she'd barely look up from her phone. We'd sit in the same room and feel like strangers. The divorce was quick, no kids, so it was just paperwork and lawyers. She kept the house, I kept the savings. We haven't spoken since. After that, I threw myself into work even harder. What else was I going to do? I didn't have hobbies, didn't have close friends outside the guys on the crew. I'd sit in my camp room after shift, scroll through my phone, watch YouTube videos about places that didn't look like northern Alberta. And that's when the algorithm started feeding me these expat channels, guys living in Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam. They'd show you their apartments, their meals, their bar tabs. A beer for $1, a full meal for $3, rent for $200 a month. They'd talk about the weather, the people, the easy pace of life. I became obsessed. I'd watch these videos for hours. Guys my age or older, sitting on a balcony in Pattaya with a Leo beer, talking about how they retired early, how their money went 10 times further, how they'd finally found happiness. Some of them had Thai girlfriends who looked 20 years younger, smiling at the camera, holding their hand. It looked like freedom. It looked like the opposite of everything my life had become. So in February, I booked a 2-week vacation, just to see. Just to try it out. I flew into Bangkok, spent a couple days wandering around completely overwhelmed, then took a bus down to Pattaya. I know what you're thinking. Pattaya's got a reputation. And, yeah, Walking Street is exactly what they say it is. But I wasn't looking for that scene. One wanted something quieter. I found a small guest house in Jomtien, away from the chaos, and I'd walk along the beach every morning, eat pad thai from street carts, drink cheap changs at little open-air bars. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. No shift schedules, no freezing wind, no ex-wife's voice in my head telling me I was emotionally unavailable. On my last night, I'd already extended the trip once and was planning to extend it again. I went to this small bar near my guest house, nothing fancy. Plastic chairs, a few locals, some old farangs nursing beers, and that's where I met Nong. She wasn't working the bar, not in that way. She was sitting with her friend, just having a drink after finishing her shift at her aunt's restaurant down the street. She had this smile that didn't look practiced. Didn't look like she was selling anything. When our eyes met, she looked away, shy. Her friend nudged her and laughed. I'm not going to lie, I was nervous. I'd talked to bar girls before that week, the ones who'd sit with you if you bought them a lady drink, but it always felt transactional. This felt different. I walked over, asked if I could join them. Her friend said yes before Nong could answer. Her English wasn't great. My Thai was non-existent. But we managed. She told me her name was Nong, that she was 28, from Buriram province up north. She'd come to Pattaya a couple years ago to make money, sent most of it back to her family. She worked 6 days a week at her aunt's restaurant, lived in a small room with 2 other girls. She asked where I was from, and when I said Canada, her eyes went wide. She'd never met anyone from Canada before. We talked for 2 hours. Her friend eventually left, and it was just us. She didn't ask me to buy her drinks. She didn't ask for anything. When I offered to get her another Leo, she insisted on paying for mine. At the end of the night, she wrote her line ID on a napkin and handed it to me, smiling that same shy smile. I messaged her the next day. She responded immediately. We met for lunch, then dinner. I ended up staying in Thailand another week just to keep seeing her. And when I finally had to fly back to Canada, I felt like I was leaving something important behind. For the next 6 months, we messaged every single day. Video calls at weird hours because of the time difference, her morning, my night. She'd show me her village on the camera, walking through the rice fields with her phone, her niece running around in the background, chickens pecking at the dirt. She'd show me her parents' house, this old wooden structure with a tin roof, gaps in the walls where you could see through to the outside. She told me she was tired of the city, tired of working long hours for low pay, tired of the noise and the traffic and the tourists. She wanted to go home, she said, take care of her parents. But there was no work in the village, no opportunity. She felt trapped. I started sending her money. Not a lot at first, 5,000 baht here, 3,000 there, maybe 50 or 60 bucks Canadian. Just to help out. She never asked, but I could see she needed it. And honestly, it felt good. Felt like I was doing something that mattered. Back in Fort Mac, I was just another body on a crew. But to Nong, I was someone who could change things. By August, I'd made my decision. I was done with the oil sands. Done with Canada. I had about 80,000 Canadian in savings, no debt, no ties. I quit my job, sold my truck, gave away most of my stuff, and booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok. Nong picked me up at the bus station in Buriram after an 8-hour ride from the capital. She was on a little Honda scooter, wearing a helmet too big for her head. And when she saw me, she jumped off and hugged me so tight I thought she'd crack a rib. She kept saying, I miss you, over and over, half laughing, half crying. The village was about 30 minutes from town, down roads that got narrower and bumpier the farther we went. We passed rice paddies, water buffalo, clusters of wooden houses on stilts. Kids waved as we rode by. It was hotter than I expected. Scorching, sticky heat that made my shirt cling to my back. But I didn't care. I felt alive. Nong's family lived in a small house at the edge of the village. When we pulled up, there were already people waiting. Her mum, her dad, her younger sister, a couple of aunts and uncles, kids I didn't know. They prepared a feast. Grilled fish, sticky rice, somtam so spicy it made my eyes water. Fried chicken, warm bottles of Leo and Chang stacked in a cooler. Her father shook my hand with both of his, smiling even though we couldn't understand a word each other said. Her mother brought me a plate piled high with food and wouldn't let me serve myself. Everyone was laughing, toasting, saying, Chokdi, good luck. I felt like a king. Nong had already found me a place to rent a small concrete house a few minutes down the road. 1 bedroom, a squat toilet, a cold water shower. 3,000 baht a month, about 120 Canadian dollars. The owner was a nice old lady who didn't speak any English, but smiled a lot and brought me fruit every few days. Nong moved in within 2 weeks. We didn't talk about it, didn't make it official. She just started staying over, then stopped leaving. Her toothbrush appeared next to mine, her clothes mixed with mine in the tiny closet. We'd wake up to roosters crowing at 5 in the morning, and she'd make me coffee with sweetened condensed milk the way she liked it. Life was absurdly cheap. I was living on $800 a month and felt rich. A full meal at the local market cost 30 baht, barely more than a Canadian dollar. A case of beer was 250 baht. Gasoline was nothing. I'd ride around on Nong's scooter, her arms wrapped around my waist, and we'd stop at waterfalls or temples or just pull over on the side of the road to buy grilled pork skewers from a lady with a charcoal grill. We'd drink at these tiny roadside bars, where the only other customers were local farmers. They tried to teach me Thai words, laughing when I butchered the tones. Nong would translate, her hand on my knee, smiling like she'd never been happier. At night, we'd lie in bed under a ceiling fan that barely worked, sweat cooling on our skin, and I'd think, this is it. This is what I was missing. Not the money, not the career, not the house in the suburbs. Just this. Just her. 3 months in, Nong started talking about her parents' house. She'd get quiet sometimes, staring out at the fields, and when I'd ask what was wrong, she'd say it was nothing. But eventually, she told me. Her parents' house was falling apart. Termites in the wood. The roof leaked when it rained. Her father was too old to fix it himself, and they didn't have money for repairs. I didn't even hesitate. I told her I'd help. She cried and hugged me and called me her hero. I wired 2,000 Canadian from my account back home and hired a local crew. They replaced the roof, reinforced the structure, patched the walls. It took 3 weeks. When it was done, Nong's family threw a party. Everyone in the village showed up. There was a whole roasted pig, more whiskey than I'd ever seen. And Nong's father stood up and gave a speech in Thai that I didn't understand, but everyone clapped and raised their glasses in my direction. Nong translated later, crying again. He'd called me a good man. A son. I'd never felt more needed in my entire life. I'd finally found where I belonged. 6 months into my new life in Thailand, I started thinking about building my own place. The rental house was fine for what it was, but it wasn't mine, you know? The walls were thin, the neighbours were loud, and I kept thinking, with the money I had saved, I could build something real, something permanent, a place that would actually be my home, not just somewhere I was crashing until the next thing. Nong loved the idea. Her eyes lit up when I mentioned it. She said her uncle knew a construction guy, someone reliable who'd give us a fair price. And land was cheap in the village, way cheaper than I'd imagined. She showed me a plot not far from her parents' place, maybe 200 meters down the road. It was about half a rai, which is roughly 800 square meters. The owner wanted 200,000 baht. I did the math that was less than 8,000 Canadian dollars for a piece of land with coconut trees and a view of the rice fields. I should have asked more questions, should have hired a lawyer, done proper research, understood what I was getting into. But I was running on trust and excitement, and Nong handled everything. She talked to the owner, negotiated the price, arranged the paperwork. When I asked about putting my name on the title, she explained gently, like she was teaching a child that foreigners can't own land in Thailand. It's the law. But I could own the house, she said, the structure itself, and we put her name on the land because we were together, because she was Thai, because that's how it had to work. I transferred 25,000 Canadian dollars from my account. The land purchase, construction costs, permits, materials. Nong said it would all be covered. I watched the money disappear from my balance and felt a tiny flutter of anxiety, but I pushed it down. This was an investment. This was our future. Construction started in November. Nong managed everything, hiring workers, buying materials, dealing with the permits I couldn't read because they were all in Thai. I'd show up at the site every day, watching the foundation go in, the walls go up, the roof take shape. The workers were friendly, always smiling, always offering me tea or cigarettes, even though I didn't smoke. I felt useful even though I couldn't actually do much. I didn't speak the language, didn't know the building codes. I was just the guy with the money, watching his dream get built by other people's hands. The house took 4 months. It was beautiful. 2 bedrooms, tile floors throughout, a Western-style bathroom with a real toilet and a hot water shower, a big kitchen with counter space and cabinets. There was a covered porch out front where I imagined sitting in the evenings, drinking beer and watching the sun set over the fields. It cost more than Nong originally estimated, closer to 35,000 Canadian, all in, but I didn't make a fuss. Construction always goes over budget, right? That's just how it works. We moved in at the end of February. Nong cried when she walked through the door the first time. She kept touching the walls, the counters, saying she'd never lived anywhere so nice. Her parents came over with flowers and food, and we had another small party. I felt proud. I'd built something, created something from nothing in a country that wasn't even mine. For the first few weeks, it was perfect. We'd wake up in our own bed, in our own house, and I'd make coffee in our kitchen while Nong swept the porch. We planted flowers out front, hung pictures on the walls. It felt real. It felt like we were building a life together. Then, Nong's younger sister started coming around. Her name was Ploy, 23, worked at a salon in town, but apparently didn't make enough to cover rent. She started showing up for dinner, staying later and later, and then one night she just didn't leave. Nong said Ploy was having problems with her roommate, just needed a place to crash for a few days. I said fine, it's family, I get it. A few days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. Ploy set up camp in the second bedroom, her clothes everywhere, her makeup scattered across the bathroom counter. She didn't offer to pay for food or utilities. Didn't really help around the house. She'd sleep until noon, use my shampoo, eat the snacks I bought, and disappear on her motorbike until late at night. I mentioned it to Nong, tried to be gentle about it. I said maybe Ploy should start looking for her own place, contributing a little if she was going to stay. Nong got quiet. Then she said, in Thailand, family help family. You don't understand because you farang. That word, farang. Foreigner. She'd used it before, playfully, teasingly. But this time, it felt different. Like a wall going up between us. I dropped it. A month later, Nong's cousin showed up. Her name was B, 29, with 2 young kids, a boy about 6 and a girl maybe 4. B's husband had left her, Nong explained. Just took off one day, no money, no explanation. B had nowhere to go, no job, no support. Could she stay with us? Just temporarily? What was I supposed to say? No, kick a woman and her kids to the street. They moved into the living room. The kids slept on a mat on the floor, B on the couch. Suddenly, my quiet house was full of noise cartoons blaring on the TV, kids running around, sticky handprints on the walls I'd just painted. I started buying more food, more snacks, more drinks. My monthly budget crept up from $800 to $1,500, then $2,000. I'd come home from getting groceries in town and find Nong's brother sitting on my porch, drinking my beer. His name was Somchai, 26, unemployed, no prospects. He'd just show up, park his motorcycle out front, and settle in like he lived there. He'd nod at me, say hello, and go back to scrolling on his phone. He didn't speak English. I didn't speak Thai beyond basic phrases. We existed in the same space, like strangers. Then an elderly aunt arrived. Nong's mother's sister, maybe 70 years old, moving slow, needing help with everything. She took over the second bedroom. Ploy moved to a mat in the hallway, and suddenly I was responsible for another mouth to feed, another body to accommodate. I counted one night, 7 people living in my house, 7 people I was supporting. Nong, Ploy, B, B's 2 kids, Somchai, who practically lived on my porch, and the aunt who barely left her room. I tried to talk to Nong again, sat her down, said we needed to set boundaries, that this wasn't sustainable. I wasn't made of money. I had savings, sure, but at this rate I'd burn through everything in a couple years. She cried. Said I didn't care about her family. Asked if I wanted her mother to suffer. If I wanted B's kids to go hungry. If I was really that selfish. She said in Thai culture, when you love someone, you love their family too. You take care of them. That's just how it is. I felt like shit. Like I was the bad guy for wanting my own space, my own life. I apologized, said I understood, said we'd figure it out. But the house didn't feel like mine anymore. Nong's mother started coming over every day, rearranging things in the kitchen, moving my stuff, cooking meals I didn't ask for. Somchai borrowed my tools without asking and never returned them. The kids broke a lamp, tracked mud through the house, left toys everywhere. Ploy used my laptop to watch Thai soap operas. Didn't ask, didn't thank me. And Nong started changing. She spent less time with me, more time on her phone, messaging people I didn't know. When I tried to talk to her, she'd give me one-word answers. At night, she'd roll over, facing away from me, and when I'd reach for her, she'd say she was tired. We stopped having sex, stopped laughing together, stopped feeling like a couple. I started drinking more. I'd drive into the next town, find a little Farang bar where expats gathered. Guys like me who'd come to Thailand chasing something and found something else entirely. We'd sit around drinking cheap whiskey, swapping stories. Every single one of them had a version of my story. Thai girlfriend, her family moving in, money disappearing, promises broken. They all said the same thing. Get out. Cut your losses. Go back home before it's too late. But I couldn't. I'd invested everything. Not just the money, the house, the land, the 2 years of my life. If I left, what did I have? I'd go back to Canada with my tail between my legs, broke, embarrassed, another guy who got played in Thailand. I'd have to admit to everyone I'd told about my new life that I'd failed, that I'd been stupid. So I stayed. And things got worse. Nong started going out at night, said she was visiting friends, going to temple, helping her cousin with something. She'd come home at 1, 2 in the morning, smelling like cigarettes and whiskey, and when I'd ask where she'd been, she'd snap at me. Tell me to stop being jealous, stop being controlling. One night I went through her phone. I know it's a violation, a sign the relationship's already dead, but I had to know. The messages were in Thai, so I used Google Translate. Most of it was innocent, just chatting with friends, but there were messages with a guy, someone she called PT, that made my stomach drop. Flirty stuff. Plans to meet up, nothing explicit, but enough to know something was going on. I confronted her. She denied it, said he was just a friend, that I was being paranoid, that this is what happens when Farangs don't trust Thai people. She turned it around on me, made me the villain for going through her phone. We fought. Really fought. She screamed at me in Thai, words I didn't understand but could feel. I yelled back in English, knowing she only caught half of it. Her family heard everything, the walls were thin and nobody said a word. They just stayed in their rooms, pretending it wasn't happening. The next morning, everything felt broken. I started noticing other things. Money disappearing from my wallet. Small amounts at first, a few hundred baht here and there, but then bigger chunks. I started keeping my cash locked up. Stopped leaving my wallet out. I asked Nong about the household expenses. She'd been managing everything. Buying food, paying utilities, handling repairs. I wanted to see receipts, understand where the money was going. She got defensive, said I didn't trust her. Said if I wanted to manage everything myself, go ahead, but good luck doing it without speaking Thai. She was right. I was helpless, completely dependent on her for everything. Translation, navigation, basic functioning in a country where I was always going to be an outsider. The breaking point came on a Wednesday. I'd gone to Nong Khai for a visa run, just an overnight trip to cross into Laos and come back. Standard procedure every few months. I took the bus up, stayed in a cheap guest house, crossed the Friendship Bridge, got my stamp and came back the next day. I got home around 4 in the afternoon. The house was full of people more than usual. Nong's extended family, people I'd never seen before, sitting in my living room, eating food from my kitchen. Someone had moved the furniture around. There were photos on the walls I didn't recognize, decorations I hadn't bought. Nong's uncle, the one who'd helped with the construction, was asleep in my bed. In my bed. I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom, staring at this man snoring in my sheets, and something inside me just snapped. I found Nong in the kitchen. She was laughing with her sister, didn't even look up when I walked in. I said, "What the hell is going on?" She glanced at me, casual, like I'd just asked what time it was. "Family visit," she said. "Why is your uncle in my bed?" "He tired. He sleep." "Nong, this is my house." And that's when she said it. That's when everything became clear. She put down the knife she was using to cut vegetables, turned to face me fully and said, "This, my house, my name on paper. You want to stay, okay. You don't want to stay, you go." The kitchen went quiet. Her sister stared at her phone. Someone in the living room turned down the TV. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "I pay for this house," I said. "I pay for everything." She shrugged. "You give me money. I buy land. I build house. Now my house. This is Thailand. You Farang. You cannot own land. You know this." She wasn't even angry. She was matter of fact, like she was explaining basic math to a child. I looked around the kitchen at the counters I'd picked out, the cabinets I'd paid for, the tiles I'd watched workers lay down. I thought about the $25,000 I'd wired, the months of construction, the pride I'd felt when we moved in. And I realized I owned nothing. Not the land, not the house, not even the motorbike we rode around on Nong's name was on that too. Legally, I was a guest who paid for everything but had no claim to any of it. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch, my bed was still occupied, and listened to Nong's family laughing in the next room, watching TV, living their lives in the house I'd built. I stared at the ceiling and understood the trap I was in. If I stayed, I'd keep hemorrhaging money, keep losing pieces of myself, keep being the Farang ATM who was useful until he wasn't. If I left, I'd lose everything I'd invested, the house, the money, the dream. But if I stayed, I'd lose something worse. I'd lose what was left of myself. By the time the sun came up, I'd made my decision. I packed a single bag the next morning. One backpack with some clothes, my laptop, my passport, and the cash I had left. I didn't take much because there wasn't much that was actually mine. Everything else, the furniture, the kitchen stuff, the decorations, I'd bought it all, paid for it all, but none of it belonged to me. Not legally. Not really. Nong was in the kitchen making coffee when I walked in with my bag. She looked at it, looked at me, and didn't say anything. Just went back to stirring her cup. "I'm leaving," I said. She nodded. Didn't ask where I was going. Didn't ask me to stay. Just said, "Okay." Her sister was sitting at the table, scrolling on her phone. The kids were watching cartoons in the living room. Somchai was already on the porch, smoking a cigarette. It was like any other morning, except I was walking out with everything I had left in the world on my back. "That's it," I said. Nong looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not sadness, just nothing. Like I was already gone. Like I'd been gone for a while, and we were both just going through the motions. "You want to go, you go," she said. "I don't need you stay." And there it was. The truth we'd both been avoiding. She didn't need me. Maybe she never had. She needed what I could provide: the money, the house, the security. But me, Derek from Fort McMurray, who thought he was building a life, she didn't need that guy at all. I wanted to yell, wanted to list everything I'd done for her, everything I'd given up, every dollar I'd spent. But what was the point? She knew. She'd always known. I was the one who'd been lying to myself. I walked out without saying goodbye to anyone else, got on a motorbike taxi to the bus station, took a 12-hour bus to Chiang Mai. I'd been there once before, briefly, and I remembered it being different from the village. More expats, more infrastructure, more ways to exist, without constantly being reminded you're a foreigner who doesn't belong. I checked into a guest house in the old city, 250 baht a night, about 10 Canadian dollars. A tiny room with a fan, a hard bed, shared bathroom down the hall. I lay down on that bed and stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. I'd lost around 50,000 Canadian dollars. The land, the house construction, the money I'd given Nong for her family, the months of living expenses supporting people who weren't even pretending to be grateful anymore. 50 grand. That was more than half my savings. I had maybe 30,000 left, and that had to last me until I figured out my next move. Going back to Canada felt impossible. What would I even go back to? No job, no house, no wife. I burned those bridges when I left, told everyone I was done with the cold, done with the grind, living my best life in paradise. How do you come back from that and admit you got played, that you built your dream on a foundation of bullshit? So I stayed in Thailand, but I stayed differently. I started looking into what had actually happened with the house and the land. I found a lawyer in Chiang Mai who spoke English, a Thai guy named Somkid who'd studied in Australia. I paid him 2,000 baht for a consultation and laid out the whole situation. He listened, took notes, and when I was done, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "You have no legal claim," he said. "The land is in her name. The house, technically, you could argue, you own the structure, but proving it would require receipts, documentation, witnesses willing to testify. And even if you won, you can't force her to let you build on land you don't own. You'd have to dismantle the house and move it. So I'm screwed. You're not the first foreigner this has happened to," he said. "And you won't be the last. Thai law is very clear. Foreigners cannot own land. Many men think a relationship is enough protection. They trust their girlfriend, their wife. But trust is not a legal contract. He explained that I could have set up a Thai company to own the land, with me as a shareholder, but that had its own complications and costs. Or I could have structured it as a 30-year lease with proper documentation. But I hadn't done any of that. I just handed over the money and trusted Nong to do the right thing. "Can I get any of my money back?" I asked. Some kid shrugged. "You can try, you can sue, but it will cost you more in legal fees than you'll recover, and the outcome is uncertain. Thai courts favour Thai citizens in these disputes. Your best option is to walk away and learn from this." Walk away. $50,000, 2 years of my life, and the advice was to just walk away. But he was right. I knew he was right. Fighting it would just bleed me dry in a different way. I thanked him, paid his fee, and left. For the first few weeks in Chiang Mai, I barely left my guest house. I'd wake up, stare at the ceiling, scroll through my bank account watching the number get smaller, and try to figure out where everything went wrong. I kept replaying moments in my head. The first time Nong mentioned her parents' house needing repairs. The way she cried when I offered to help. The way her family looked at me during that first party. Like I was a hero, a saviour. Had that all been an act? Or had it been real at first, and then shifted when they realised how easy it was to get money out of me? I thought about the nights we spent together in that tiny rental house before I built the big one. The way she'd laugh at my terrible Thai pronunciation. The way she'd trace her fingers along my arm while we watched movies we couldn't understand. Had she loved me then? Even a little bit? Or had I just been a wallet with a heartbeat from day one? I started going to a small cafe near my guest house, a place run by a British guy who'd been in Chiang Mai for 15 years. His name was Rob, maybe 55. Grey beard, permanent sunburn. We got to talking one afternoon, and I ended up telling him the whole story. He didn't seem surprised. "Mate, I'd heard this 100 times, he said. "Different details, same story. Guy comes to Thailand, meets a girl, thinks he's found something real. Sends money. Builds a house. Supports the family. Then, one day, he wakes up and realises he's been funding someone else's life while his own falls apart. You think she never cared about me at all?" Rob shrugged. "I think she cared about what you could do for her. That doesn't mean it was all fake. People are complicated. She probably liked you well enough. But when you're desperate, really desperate, you'll do what you have to do to survive. And in a poor village in Isan, a foreigner with money is survival. So I was just a resource. You were an opportunity. And I'm not saying that to make you feel worse. I'm saying it because you need to understand the context. A lot of these women, they're not conning you for fun. They're trying to lift their families out of poverty. The whole village knows when a girl lands a Farang boyfriend, there's pressure, expectations. She's supposed to send money home, build the house for her parents, take care of her siblings. If she doesn't, she's selfish. She's failed. I'd never thought about it that way. I'd been so focused on my own pain, my own loss, that I hadn't considered the pressure Nong was under, the weight of being the one who got lucky, who found a foreigner willing to pay. "Doesn't make it right," I said. "No, it doesn't. But it makes it less about you personally and more about a system that's bigger than both of you." That conversation changed something in me. I stopped seeing myself as just a victim. I started seeing the whole picture, the poverty, the desperation, the cultural expectations I'd never understood because I'd never bothered to learn. I'd walked into Thailand with my savings and my loneliness and my need to feel important. And I'd collided with a woman who had her own needs, her own pressures, her own survival instincts, no villains. Just different kinds of desperation. I started rebuilding, slowly. I found a cheap studio apartment on the outskirts of Chiang Mai, 4,000 baht a month, about 160 Canadian dollars. 1 room, a bathroom, a hot plate. I bought a used motorbike for 15,000 baht and started exploring the city properly. I needed income. My savings wouldn't last forever. So I started teaching English online. There are platforms where you can sign up, do a quick certification course, and start teaching kids in China or Japan or Korea. The pay wasn't great, $15 to $20 an hour, but it was something. I'd teach early mornings and late evenings to match the time zones, pull in about $1,500 US a month. Enough to live on in Chiang Mai. Enough to stop the bleeding. I also started learning Thai. Actually learning it, not just the basic phrases I'd gotten by on before. I enrolled in a language school. went to classes 3 times a week, practiced with locals at the markets. It was humbling, struggling through tones and sentence structures, but it also opened things up. I could have conversations. I could negotiate prices. I could exist in Thailand without constantly needing someone to translate for me. I made friends, real friends. Expats who'd been here for years, who'd made their own mistakes and stuck around anyway. Thai people who didn't see me as a walking ATM. I joined a gym, started running in the mornings, stopped drinking so much, and I started dating again. Casually, no promises, no grand plans. I went on dates with women I met through language exchange apps, at coffee shops, through mutual friends. Some were Thai, some were expats from other countries. I was honest about what I'd been through, what I was looking for. No games, no pedestals. One woman, a teacher from Bangkok named Phon, asked me on our second date why I was still in Thailand after everything that happened. "Why didn't you just go home?" she said. I thought about it. Because Thailand didn't do this to me. I did it to myself. I came here with all these expectations, all these fantasies about what my life would be. I didn't see Nong as a real person with her own problems. I saw her as a way to fix my loneliness. That's on me, not on this country. Phon nodded. A lot of foreigners, they come here and they think Thai people are simple. They think we're always smiling, always happy, always grateful. They don't see that we're just people. We have problems, we're complicated. I get that now. Do you still talk to Nong? No. I blocked her number, deleted everything. I needed a clean break. Do you hate her? I thought about that for a long time. Did I hate her? I'd lost so much money, so much time. She'd lied to me, or at least let me believe things that weren't true. But hate? No, I said finally. I don't hate her. I'm angry about how it ended. But I think we were both using each other in different ways. I wanted someone to make me feel important. She wanted someone to take care of her family. We both got what we needed for a while. Then it stopped working. Phon smiled. That's very mature. I'm learning. 6 months after I left the village, I was sitting in a cafe in Chiang Mai, drinking iced coffee, working on a lesson plan for my online students. My phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. It was in Thai, so I used Google Translate. "Hello, this is Nong. I hope you are well. I want to say sorry for what happened. I was not good to you. You were kind to my family. I should have been more honest. I hope you can forgive me someday." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to write back something angry, tell her exactly how much she'd cost me, how much she'd hurt me. But what would that accomplish? She knew. And she was reaching out, which took something. I wrote back, "I'm doing okay. I hope you and your family are well too. No hard feelings. We both made mistakes. Take care." I hit send and put my phone away. That was it. No long conversation, no closure scene where we laid everything out and found peace. Just two people acknowledging what happened and moving on. I'm still in Thailand. It's been almost a year since I left the village. I'm not rich. I'm not living the dream life I thought I'd have when I first landed in Bangkok 2.5 years ago. But I'm okay. I've got my little studio. I've got my teaching gig. I've got friends I can call when I'm feeling low, people who understand what it's like to be far from home, trying to build something in a place that doesn't always make sense. I've learned the language, not fluently, but enough to get by, enough to have real conversations. I've learned the culture, the actual culture, not the tourist version I thought I understood. I've learned that Thailand isn't some simple paradise where everything is cheap and everyone is happy. It's a complicated place with complicated people, just like everywhere else. And I've learned about myself. I've learned that I was running from something when I came here, not running toward anything. I was lonely and lost, and I thought a new country and a pretty girl could fix that. But you can't fix internal problems with external changes. You've got to do the work yourself. I don't regret coming to Thailand. I regret how I did it. I regret not taking the time to understand what I was getting into, not setting boundaries, not protecting myself legally and emotionally. I regret mistaking gratitude for love, dependence for partnership. But the loss, the money, the house, the relationship taught me more than any success ever could have. It taught me humility. It taught me to see people clearly instead of through the filter of what I want them to be. It taught me that home isn't a place you build with money. It's something you carry inside yourself. Would I do it all again, knowing how it would end? Honestly, probably not. $50,000 is a hell of a tuition fee for life lessons, but I'm still here, still teaching, still learning Thai, still going on dates and making friends, and figuring out what comes next. I'm not the guy who stepped off the plane in Bangkok thinking he'd found paradise. I'm not the guy who built a house in a village thinking he'd found love. I'm just a guy who made some expensive mistakes and decided to stick around long enough to learn from them. To anyone watching this who's thinking about making the same move I did, coming to Thailand, meeting someone, building something, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. That's your choice. But I will tell you this. Get a lawyer. Understand the laws. Protect yourself legally before you hand over a single dollar. Don't put property in someone else's name unless you're genuinely okay with losing it. Don't assume love and legal protection are the same thing. And more importantly, know why you're really here. Are you running from something or towards something? Are you seeing the person in front of you clearly, or are you seeing a fantasy? Are you building a partnership, or are you trying to buy belonging? Because belonging, real belonging, doesn't come from a house or a relationship or a country. It comes from being honest with yourself about who you are and what you need. I'm still figuring that out. But at least now I'm doing it with my eyes open. The host returns to close out the episode. So there you have it. Derek's story. A cautionary tale, sure, but also a story about resilience, about learning to see clearly after spending so long in the fog of your own expectations. There are no real villains here. Nong wasn't some evil mastermind. She was a woman from a poor village who saw an opportunity to lift her family out of poverty and took it. Derek wasn't some naive idiot. He was a lonely man, looking for connection in a world that felt cold and empty, and he thought he found it in a place where his money went further and smiles came easier. The tragedy is that they were both using each other, just in different ways, and when the transaction stopped working for both sides, it fell apart. This pattern plays out every single day in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Vietnam, in countries all over the world where economic disparity meets loneliness, meets cultural misunderstanding. Western men with money and freedom but no purpose. Local women with families to support and limited options. They meet in the middle and tell themselves it's love, when really it's something more complicated, something more human. I'm not here to judge either side. Poverty makes people do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Loneliness does the same. And when you mix the two, you get stories like Derek's heartbreak and loss and expensive lessons learned the hard way. If you're in Derek's position right now, if you're supporting someone's family, if your name isn't on the paperwork, if you're starting to feel like an ATM instead of a partner, pay attention to that feeling. It's telling you something. Don't ignore it because you're afraid of being alone or afraid of admitting you made a mistake. The cost of staying is almost always higher than the cost of leaving. And if you're thinking about making the move Derek made, quitting your job, moving to Southeast Asia, building a life with someone you met online or on vacation, do your homework, learn the language, understand the culture, get legal advice. Protect yourself, and most importantly, be honest about why you're really doing it. Because Thailand will give you exactly what you're looking for, including the lies you tell yourself. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Have you been in a situation like Derek's? Do you think he should have seen the signs earlier? What would you have done differently? Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories like this. Real stories from real people, navigating the complicated intersection of love, money, and cultural differences in Southeast Asia. And to Derek, wherever you are, thanks for sharing your story. It takes courage to admit when you've been wrong, when you've been hurt, when you've lost. I hope you find what you're looking for, whatever that turns out to be. Until next time, this is Bargirl Buddies. Stay smart, stay safe, and remember, home isn't a place you build, it's something you carry with you.